girl Wakeji Kamore, and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope that you're having a fantastic day, whatever it is that you are, and whatever time it is that you get to watch this podcast. If this podcast is good for you, kindly like, subscribe, comment, but most importantly, share it with someone else. So today we are going to be covering the summary of Deuteronomy chapter 3, where Moses is still recounting the events that took place as the Israelites journeyed from Egypt all the way to the plains of Moab. And specifically right now, he is actually in the space where they were in the wilderness and they were wandering in the wilderness. And this chapter comes immediately after the victory that they had over the king of Heshbon. So after defeating the king of Heshbon, the Israelites went to Bashan. And the king of Bashan, his name was OG, like Og. OG, like the real OG, like we can actually call him OG. So King OG of Bashan and his army fought them, and them being the Israelites, at Eldrei. And God told Moses that they were not to be afraid of King OG and to do to him what they had done to those in Heshbon. So once again, the Israelites defeated the army, leaving no survivors. They took control over all the towns and took control over all the livestock. And this makes sense why now the tribe of Gad and the tribe of Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh actually wants to settle down on the east of Jordan, because now they feel like they have a lot of livestock and this place is actually good for them. So Moses continues to recount what was happening and what we saw happening in Numbers chapter 22, where the tribe of Reuben and the tribe of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh decided to settle in Canaan. Decided not to settle in Canaan, but rather to settle in the land east of Jordan, after they had seen that they had a lot of livestock and the land was actually good for their livestock. So Moses then reminded the Israelites that God had commanded them to take possession of the land that he had given to them, and he also told them that all able-bodied men who could fight in an army were to get ready to fight, and they were to be the first ones to cross over Jordan. After that, and after everybody had settled, then the men from these 2.5 tribes, Gad, Reuben, and half of Manasseh, could actually come back and take possession of the land that they had decided they want to settle in. So in this chapter, Moses also recounts how he pleaded with God to let him go into the promised land. And Moses told the Israelites that God would not listen to him because he was angry with them and he would not let Moses go, which is not the truth. The reason why God did not allow him to enter was not because he was angry with the Israelites. So hapa kuna tashwishi somewhere. So instead, the Lord told Moses to go to the top part of Mount Pisgah and look to the north, to the south, to the east and the west. And God said to take a good look at this region with his own eyes, because he was not allowed to cross over the Jordan River. So God told him to commission Joshua. God told Moses to commission Joshua to strengthen him as well as encourage him, because he was going to be the one who leads the people into the promised land. And that is basically the end of the summary of Deuteronomy chapter 3 and the things that Moses recounts in that chapter. But I'm just going to go straight to the takeout. And I'm just wondering, like, have you ever done something to upset someone? Have you ever done something that upset someone, but you probably didn't understand what it is that you did? So the person went ahead and explained what it is that you did, but even after they explained, like, word for word what it is that you had done, you still chose to blame someone else for the mistakes or for the wrongs that you had done. That is exactly what Moses is doing in this chapter. So let me take you back. In Numbers chapter 20, Moses and Aaron were told to go and speak to a specific rock so that the rock could disperse, or like water could come forth out of the rock for the Israelites. So what did Aaron and Moses decide to go and do? They decided to rebel against God, and Moses took his staff, or rather his kamuti, and went and gongered the stone twice. He struck the stone twice. Luckily, the stone actually still produced water, but God was extremely displeased with Moses and Aaron, and therefore he excluded them from entering into the promised land. In short, to his word, we've already seen by this time, Aaron has already died in the wilderness, and Moses is also not going to make it into the promised land. And this is what God said to Moses and Aaron. Like when he was explaining what it is that they had done, and when he was explaining what the consequence is, he actually mentioned what it is that they had done, that had upset him. So this is what he said. He says, because you did not trust me, because you did not trust in me to show my holiness before the eyes of the Israelites, therefore you shall not, you being Aaron and Moses, shall not bring the assembly into the land that I have given them. Why? Because they did not trust God. They did not trust that God has just said, go and speak to the rock, but they didn't do that. So they went and now chapped the rock, and in that way, they displeased God because they did not trust him. So God explained what it is that they had done that had led to the consequences. But the thing that strikes me is that now, as Moses is recapping, or rather recounting these incidents, he seems to have forgotten what it is that he did, and he's blaming it on the Israelites. Listen to what Moses says in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23 to verse 26. Please remember that at this point he's addressing the Israelites and is recounting this specific story of what it is that when God told him that he will not enter the promised land. So this is what he says. He says, and I pleaded with the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord God, you have only begun to show your servants your greatness and your mighty hand. For what God is there in heaven and on earth who can do such works and mighty acts as yours? Please let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that good hill country and Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me because of you and would not listen to me. So at this point where Moses is addressing the Israelites, he's telling them that the reason why God did not allow him to enter the promised land is because he was upset with the Israelites, which we have seen to not be true. I mean, at the end of Moses' life, like at this point, he's 120 years. I mean, he's I think even 128. Yes, I'm not quite sure whether it's 120 or 128. Like, his life is coming to an end, and still he will not take responsibility for his actions. Still, he will not take responsibility for the consequences that he's actually living on, like the consequences that he's actually facing right now. This makes me wonder, what if he actually accepted and repented the mistake instead of pleading with God and begging God? Would that have changed his fate? Maybe it would have actually changed his fate. Maybe God would have been like, you know what, you've accepted your mistake. This is a mistake that you've done, and you've apologized for it, or you've repented of it, and now you can enter the promised land. We don't know, but I mean, what he did was completely wrong. So this brings me to a place where I just want to put a thought in your mind. Think about the thing that you're currently begging God for, or pleading God for. And you are over there, you are pleading with God, and you are begging God for that specific thing. Think about that thing, and then take your mind back to a time when God gave you the last instruction. The last time God gave you an instruction. Take your mind back to the time when God gave you the last instruction, and ask yourself, did I obey that instruction? So this is what I am pleading with God for, or this is what I am begging God for, as what Moses was doing in that specific time. But this is the instruction, or the last instruction that God gave me. And ask yourself, did I obey that instruction, or did I not obey it? And then once you have done that, ask yourself the second question, which is it too late for me to obey this instruction? Is it too late for me to actually do what the thing that God has asked me to do? And if it is too late, because sometimes it can be too late. Like now for Moses, it was already too late for him to actually obey, because now he'd already hit the stone, and the stone had already removed water. Now he can't talk to it because it's already too late for him to obey. So ask yourself, is it too late for me to obey this instruction? And if it is not, then go ahead and obey that instruction. But if it is too late for you to obey, and you've already now disobeyed, you didn't trust God and you disobeyed, what is the next course of action? The next course of action is for you to actually accept your mistake and say, this is a mistake that I made, and I am sorry that I made this mistake. God, please give me the next instruction. And this time actually do obey it. I actually want to think, I don't know for sure, I can't quite tell you like that Moses' fate would have changed, but I want to believe that God gives us second chances. I want to believe that God is a God who allows us to actually, who allows us to see the mistakes that we have done, repent for them, and gives us a second chance. But when you don't even see the mistake, there's a big problem. Now the apple, as even God can't help you, completely cannot help you. You see, the thing is, God does not need us to beg and to plead with him and to be over there crying. Imagine if every day you went home and your child was begging for something or pleading for something. What kind of experience is that? I don't think that's an experience any parent would enjoy. So let's not take God through that experience, because it's not even an experience that even you as a human being, you would enjoy. What does God need from us? God needs for us to trust and obey. That's the only thing that God is asking of us, that we can trust him and we can obey him. He doesn't need for us to be begging and be pleading. All he needs for us to do is that when he gives you an instruction, just trust it and obey it. Just trust him and obey it. Regardless of how hard it is, how stupid it is, how out of place it seems, that's just what he requires of us. The only thing that made God upset about Moses and Aaron was the fact that they did not trust and obey God. And I'm going to repeat, even as I end this podcast, that God does not require for us to beg and to plead with him. All he requires of us to do is to trust him and obey him. Trust God and obey him. This is your girl Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.